Hi everyone, it's Mary from Simplified SEO Consulting, and I wanted to talk about something that I think is going to resonate with a lot of business owners. I know it resonates with me right now. If you run a private practice right now, you've probably had this thought at least once in the past few months. Maybe I should just pull back for a while. Stop investing in marketing, stop improving the website, stop spending money on visibility, just survive until things calm down. And that's a completely understandable reaction. But it may also be the biggest mistake practice owners make during these uncertain times. And I want to talk about why I think that. So, this is the reality that everyone is feeling. The world is chaotic right now, politically, economically, socially. And if you're a therapist running a private practice or managing a group practice, that chaos isn't just something you're seeing in the news. You're feeling it inside your business too. And I'm going to be honest with you. Personally, some days I dread getting up. The minute I check my phone, turn on the news, scroll through social media, it's the same thing over and over and over again. Conflict, violence, political division, economic uncertainty. And it feels like the world is spinning chaotically out of control with no real center point anymore. Kindness, compassion, patience, the things that should feel foundational in our lives sometimes feel like they've disappeared. And, then we have to look at the economic landscape. Prices are rising, budgets feel tighter, things that once feel predictable now really feel uncertain. And as a small business owner, I know many of you, like myself, are watching this feeling the same thing. I had a clear plan for myself mapped out for the year. I expected some ups and downs. That's business. But lately, it feels more like a pothole ridden road that I'm trying to navigate one day at a time. And when you're responsible for supporting yourself, your family, your team, your clients, that uncertainty creates real stress. And when everything feels unstable, our natural instinct is to protect, to survive. The voice in your head might be saying, stop investing, stop building new programs, stop improving, stop spending time on outreach. Just survive on the referrals you already have and wait for things to calm down. And honestly, that makes sense, from an emotional perspective because it feels like the responsible choice. But the problem is that that mindset doesn't serve your business and it definitely doesn't serve future clients. So when practices slip into that survival mode, something subtle really happens. Strategy kind of disappears. Instead of planning ahead, everything becomes reactive. And eventually that shift becomes visible to the outside world. It's not just something that's impacting you and your team and your business internally. So if you were posting regularly, if you were sharing blogs, participating in conversations in your community, marketing, showing up, growing your business, making all of those outreaches, and suddenly all of that kind of dwindles or stops, people really notice. They notice you're no longer showing up. They notice that the voice they were getting used to hearing has gone quiet. And instead of becoming a therapist that they think about when things get difficult, you slowly start disappearing from their awareness, from their circle, from their daily routine. So when they finally do decide that they're ready to seek help, you're not the person they remember anymore. And what I've seen after nearly a decade of being in the mental health field, working in small businesses, you know, I've seen this pattern repeat itself over and over again. Practices that pull back during difficult economic periods, they don't come out ahead in the end. They come out behind. Because when the environment stabilizes, they have to rebuild everything. They have to rebuild that visibility. They have to rebuild that trust. They have to rebuild that recognition. And meanwhile, the practices that stayed consistent during the difficult times or difficult seasons, they're already positioned for growth when things start to stabilize because they're already still visible. They're already a trusted voice. They're still familiar. So when demand rises again, those are the practices that people really reach out to. So, you might be asking, okay, what is the answer? I don't have the money to be recklessly spending. And it's definitely not ignoring your budget. The answer is to keep moving forward strategically. The answer is streamlining your processes. You can refine your niche. You can focus your resources on what matters most. But what you can't do is stop thinking strategically about your business just because the environment feels uncertain. So, some of the strategic moves that matter right now are things like, instead of asking, what should I cut? A better question could be, what small actions today could improve my position 10 to 12 months from now? Some of the most effective moves during uncertain times are actually pretty simple. Stay visible on social media, because consistency, as we've talked about, matters so much more than perfection. Continue writing those blogs or educational content that speaks directly to your ideal client. Um, that content builds trust long before someone ever comes to your website. Take time to review your internal processes. Set aside time every week to have a strategic planning session, to look at these processes, look at things that can be done. Where are you spending money effectively? Where are things costing more time and energy than they should? How can I adjust those things? These aren't flashy moves, but they're foundational. And strong foundations are really what carry businesses through the challenging and uncertain times. Um, because eventually things are going to get back to normal, things are going to calm down. And, when the chaos settles enough for people to actually start breathing again, you know, people are going to start addressing the stress and trauma that they've been carrying through this whole time frame. They're going to just they're going to be deciding that, hey, I find, this is the time I need to get some help. I need to process all of these things that I've been dealing with. And when they finally decide to reach out for help, they remember the voices that were present during all the chaos, the people who were consistently showing up. They'll remember you if you do that. And consistency translates into real client conversions. Not because you were flashy, not because you were the loudest voice, but because you were reliable through, those uncertain times. And I'm not saying this to make it seem like things are easy right now and these are easy things to do, because I know from personal experience in managing my own business and trying to make things work during these challenging times that it's not easy. I'm saying it because, I'm in it right now. I'm in it. I'm walking through that same uncertainty as many of the practice owners that I work with. And these are actionable steps that I utilize to make strategic decisions for my business. So if this resonates with you and you're wondering whether your website or online presence is actually supporting your practice the way it should, that's exactly what we do. You don't have to work with us. You don't have to spend money with us, but schedule a consultation call. We can talk about things, talk about next steps, talk about, walking through your site, your visibility, and the smartest strategic steps that you can make. Because when times feel chaotic, the practices that stay visible are really the ones that people remember when they're finally ready to reach out for help. I hope everyone has a great week, and I hope this helps. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them, and I will respond to them. Have a great week.